Marhaba. Hello, thank you so much for joining me here today in my camper. I am so pleased to be back and feel very honored and privileged to be able to share another story with you from the Word of God. Today's story is sometimes called the prodigal son, and sometimes it's also called the parable of the compassionate father. This parable or story was told by Jesus to many people, to the crowds. There were sinners, and there were also religious leaders and Pharisees, experts in the law, present when Jesus was teaching. So I love this story. I love how this story shows us the heart of God. So let me get started. Then Jesus said, "A man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the estate that will belong to me.' So the father divided his assets between his 2 sons. After a few days, the younger son gathered together all he had and left on a journey to a distant country. And there he squandered his wealth with a wild lifestyle. Then, after he had spent everything, a severe famine took place in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and worked for one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He was longing to eat the carob pods the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired workers have food enough to spare, but here I am dying from hunger. I will get up and go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired workers.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way from home, his father saw him, and his heart went out to him. He ran and hugged his son and kissed him. Then his son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Hurry, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his fingers and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate, because this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field. As he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. And so he called one of the servants and asked, 'What's happening?' And the servant replied, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he got his son back safe and sound.' But the older son became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and appealed to him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I have worked like a slave for you, and I've never disobeyed your commands. Yet you never gave me even a goat so that I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him.' Then the father said to his older son, 'Son, you are always with me, and everything that belongs to me is yours. It was appropriate to celebrate and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.'" So I want to touch on just a few things from this parable. The first is, can you imagine the audacity of a son who asks his father for his inheritance early? But can you also imagine a father saying, okay, here's your inheritance, go. It says that the son went to a distant country and squandered his wealth. This verb in the original language means to scatter. So it's a graphic verb really showing the wastefulness of this son. And being sent into the field to feed pigs would have been very distasteful to him as a Jew, because pigs were, and for some still are, considered unclean animals. I love how when Jesus told this story, he said, when the son was still a long way off. This tells us that the father was looking and watching. He had the image of his son in his mind, and he recognized his son coming from a long way off. He knew the way he walked. He knew his son. And that the father got up and ran to his son, and he hugged his son. And in Greek, in the original language, Jesus used an idiom, a Greek idiom, that meant he fell on his neck, and the father kissed his son. And it's truly touching to think that Jesus shared this story because he wanted to teach the people, including the religious leaders and experts in the law, what God the Father was like, that he welcomes the sinner back home, and that he's not like people. Can you imagine what an earthly father would do if a son came and asked for his inheritance early? And do you think that that earthly father would welcome that son home in the way that this father did, the compassionate father? I just see the abundant love and the abundance of forgiveness that God the Father has for us, no matter what we've done. Some of us have gone into the far country thinking that there was life to be found there, thinking that we knew what was best for us. And even in our worst mistakes, the Father is always ready to welcome us home when we come humbly. I also love the Father's attitude toward his self-righteous older son, who said, "How dare you show this type of grace and love and mercy and forgiveness to this son of yours?" Notice the older brother didn't say, "to my brother," but instead said to his father, "this son of yours." And I love how patient the father was with his older son. His older son was guilty of sin as well, lacking mercy, lacking grace, lacking the joy that the father had in welcoming this lost son back home. The brother was more concerned about himself and his own righteousness and really his own selfish gain than he was with the fact that his lost brother had humbly come home, that he had returned. And he disdained and was angry at the father for it. But the father was patient even with his older son and his self-righteous pride. Well, thank you so much for joining me today for the story of the prodigal son, or the compassionate father. Ma salama. Goodbye. And until next time, peace.